little update on our electric outboard project. Solar panel didn't turn up in the mail this week, so being Easter long weekend, it's going to be sometime next week. And I didn't get enough time or free time at work to get our prop all welded up with the larger blades and that. Managed to get 2 out of 3 done, but simply ran out of time due to being quite busy at work this week. Being a short week and also the Easter long weekend, everyone wants their car fixed up, ready to go for the long weekend. So in the meantime, you may have been watching over the years Robert Murray Smith's progress in super capacitors, and we are going to be diving into that a little, or should I say a lot, and later on in this series of videos you're going to see a machine the likes you have not seen before, one that I designed and built myself. And what it does, the end product, we take this granulated activated carbon and we are able to put a surface area on those carbon molecules that is larger than graphene, and we are talking energy densities as far as supercaps go that exceed that of lithium ion batteries through this process, believe it or not. And you will see that is actual fact towards the end of the video series. So the carbon we're using, we just bought this from the pet shop, 500 gram box full. I'd say they'd buy it by the bag full and just put them in these small containers to sell, because of course you wouldn't need a bag full for your fish tank unless you've got an awfully big one. So $5 for half a kilo, cheap as chips. And what we need to do with that stuff is crush it up to a very fine powder, as fine as we can get it, before we put it through the other machine I've made. So in order to do that we need a little ball mill. Now a lot of people just use a blender. You can if you like, but I prefer making my own devices, and that's half of the fun of the project. So we're going to make a ball mill, and relatively simple one, and what you're going to need is a bit of pipe or a drum of some description. This is an old motor housing, 12 volt DC motor from one of those cheap Chinese air compressors. That will do just nicely. We sell these at work. The boss imports them and we get a few come back, and 9 times out of the 10 it's because the magnets have fell off the housing, which was as in this case here. So you need a drum of some description depending on how large you want to make it. Ours is just going to be a little desktop one. A couple of bearings. Now if you've pulled one of these motors apart, the bearings will already be in there in the end caps that carry the shafts. So you'll have your 2 bearings. We're just going to be using a 12 volt windscreen wiper motor, already geared down to the right speed. We can use a speed control on that to speed it up or down, whatever you desire. And in this case, unlike most plain Jane ball mills, if you've got yourself an old timing belt, or go down to your local service centre, vehicle service centre, see if they've got an old timing belt laying around that they've changed, or if they could keep you one. And we're going to put this on one end of the drum, cut and glue it so it sits around the drum like yay, and our bearings are going to run along there. And as you can see, that's going to cause the drum to vibrate as well as rotate. So we're going to have our ball mill, but our ball mill is going to vibrate, which will give us a finer grain and less crushing time, not rolling time. So that's that's about all you need. Major components. A little bit of steel or timber to make up your frame to carry all this. And of course we're going to need a couple of end caps. One end cap has to screw on here or fix onto there somehow, so we've got to be able to remove it. We're going to be doing it the simple way. Simply weld 4 little bolts off here, or studs, and have our steel cap go over the end, and we'll just put some nuts on it. And on the other end we're going to weld it on, and that'll have the drive shaft coming out, and we'll simply be doing a pin connection between the 2 shafts so that it slips straight on, drops in the cradle, and the motor spins it. So it's reasonably quick. You can see here we've got the little hole there for the cables and a couple of little notches up the other end, so we're just going to trim each end of this off square and start with a nice square cylinder. You can use what's that, probably a bit of 2.5 inch, 3 inch pipe, 4 inch pipe, depends on how big you want to go. But we're only doing a little desktop unit because we have a lot of experimenting to do, and the other unit is quite large. The secondary process, we put this crushed activated carbon through to increase the surface area on it. So the other machine is called, I have named it my sonic arc reactor, so I'll give you a little idea of what's coming up. It's a pretty good light show anyway. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and build this now, and we'll come back and have a look at the end result. Throw some of our activated carbon granules in there and give it a whirl, see what happens. Okay, a bit of an update on how we're going here. We've been going about 3 hours now, a couple of coffee breaks in between. Our drum is pretty much done. As you can see, we've got our belt pop riveted on there for our vibrator, rather than having a separate unit to do that. Hopefully it'll work alright. Just an idea I came up with. We'll give it a try, and if it's successful, then you guys have a cheap and easy way to make a vibrating drum for your what do you call them? Ball mill. Okay, so the drive, we were going to use a pin. I've changed it a bit here. Hope I'm in shot there. Yes. What I did was I got a large Allen key bolt, as you can see here, which goes all the way through, and then there's a nut that just holds the cap on. So what we do is undo that nut and tip our product out. So I have an Allen key bolt in there, and what I decided to do was I've taken the windscreen wiper motor apart and got our shaft out of the centre, and I had the nut that was on there, and I chopped the ball end off of this large old Allen key I had here. You can see they used to look like that, and I've got a ball end on the Allen key himself, and I welded that to the nut for this shaft. So now this screws on here, and this hops in there and drives the drum. Of course we'll only be able to drive it one way, and we drive it the way the nut tightens up, but what this allows me to do, when that's fixed, I can put this in an angle like so and drop it down into the cradle onto the bearings. So that gives us a bit of leeway. It's pretty much like a CV joint without the balls, so that's worked out really well. Was a bit of a mission welding that little bit of Allen key onto that little nut, but looks like we've got it alright, and it still screws onto the thread, so we're pretty much right to put all this back together, build our little cradle, our little frame, wire it all up with an on and off switch. Of course, using a 12 volt windscreen wiper motor, we can either power it off a power supply or off a 12 volt battery, doesn't really matter. If you wanted to do it at no cost, you would hook it onto a 12-volt battery and a solar panel on your battery. The motor draws about 1 to 1.2 amps, so not too bad. A little bit hungry, but not too bad. I might strip this wire off and try that one instead. I think you'll find that the black one is the common, and the light blue one and dark blue one will be your high and low speeds. So I'm not sure whether it's on high or low. That's also a good thing, because you could have a dual pole switch and switch from high to low speed, whatever suits the geometry of your machine. Anyway, that's where we're up to now. I'm going to keep on going because it's not too far away. We've probably got another couple of hours on it and we'll have it done. Okay, well, here's our finished product. I've welded it to this big flywheel because the frame wanted to jump around just as much as the drum. Quick install for the drum, straight on the drive there, plonk it in. That worked out a treat. A couple of bearings here, runs on our corrugated timing belt. Motor and frame, that's pretty much it. So let's start her up, see how she goes, and we'll check out the vibrations of the drum. So I reckon that should work a treat. Next thing we're going to do is put some carbon in there and throw some nuts in there. I haven't got any ball bearings that would be a large enough size, so we're just going to throw a handful of nuts in there. Work pretty much the same, I would expect. Handful of nuts, handful of rocks, whatever you want, and see how it goes. So that's going to be in the next video, so you'll have to wait until then. But nice little project for the day, quick and easy build. To buy one, the cheapest one I could find on eBay, a little desktop one, and I don't think the drum was this big even, it'll be half the size. Cheapest I could find was 290 bucks. So this one we've just made out of scrap we had laying around, of course, and very easy to come by parts, so that's why I try and do these projects the way I do, is to keep the costs down, so those not so fortunate that pay a lot of tax to our lazy governments and they end up with a lot of spare cash like we do. Pretty much bugger all to build this. Pretty sure you can find a bit of pipe, a couple of bearings and a windscreen wiper motor and a bit of time, and that's about all this project cost us, was a bit of time. Alright, thanks for watching. Next video we'll check it out and see how it works, and we're just going to chuck those raw pellets in there, not even going to crush them first, and see what happens.